In April of this year, Tesla shocked the car world with the new Tesla Model 3. And I say shocked because surprisingly, it was met with great reception. It looks better, the performance model is faster, which is what this one is. And overall, it's just a more comfortable and better built car than the previous version that lasted for around 5 years. So today I'm going to actually be giving you the 5 things I hate about my Tesla Model 3 performance. Last time I did things that I love about this car, but now I'm going to give you the downsides of owning one of these. I'm Aiden, you're watching God Next. Now the first thing I want to talk about is actually how this car looks. Now, overall, I think it is a good-looking car. Tesla did a really good job with the redesign, but the issue is I think the performance model doesn't do enough to stand out from the normal long range and the base model trim levels. Now, of course, splitter up front, carbon fiber diffuser, or carbon fiber spoiler in the back with the performance badge that looks like a plaid badge. We'll get into that later. The rims, of course, are the performance rims, and I think they look a lot cooler. It sits lower than the other ones, but overall, I mean, and it's always been an issue with Tesla, whether it's been an S, X, 3, or Y. Basically, they all look the same, and they get lumped in all to this big crowd of, oh, he's just driving a Tesla. Now, of course, you're not buying one of these to show off to your friends unless they're big EV enthusiasts. I don't know why they would be, but there's not enough here to kind of define this as the performance model other than the small little tweaks Tesla has done. Overall, like I said, I think it's a great looking car, but I feel like they could have just done a little more outside of the tiny changes that they did make. Of course, this is going to be much faster than every other Model 3 on the road today. Not quite as fast as the S and the X, of course, but though it is faster, just wish there was that little bit of, uniqueness and feeling of special nature when driving this car. Now moving on to the rear of the car, this still focuses on the appearance of it, but it's gonna have to do with the things that are specifically on the performance version of the Model 3. Now, of course, everyone knows that the plaid version of the Model X and the Model S have their own little plaid badge that looks arguably pretty cool in my opinion. And it says plaid on the back and everything like that. But the problem is Tesla has gone and done something to the Model 3 performance for this generation of it and slapped this beautiful badge right here. Now, if you do know Tesla Model 3 performances, have that badge on the insert for where your neck is on the bucket seats for the front ones. And that matches that. So anyone who has actually looked up how this car looks and knows Tesla, they would know that that badge is from the factory along with this carbon fiber spoiler back here. But I've owned this car for a month and a half. You don't know how many times I've been asked, did you buy that off of Amazon and slap it on the back of your car? Or why did you put a plaid badge on the back of your Tesla Model 3? Because arguably they do look very similar. Of course, they're not the exact same, but they look very similar. They're about the same size. And I honestly think it looks a little tacky. Now, do I like the badge and everything how it looks? Yes. Could Tesla have had to put a little more thought and consideration into that because it, again, looks like a plaid badge? Yes, they could have done that. On top of that, I also think, though this carbon fiber spoiler is pretty cool, it does look a bit tacky, and it's not like it has any real practical use. I mean, maybe when they put it through a wind tunnel, it helped with aerodynamics, which helps with range, but still pretty tacky looking overall. And of course, I get questions all the time, like I said, where they say, did you just buy that off of Amazon and slap it on the back of your car? No, I didn't. This is the way it looks from the factory. Now, on the inside of the Tesla Model 3 Performance, which is the nicest place to be of all seats in this car, is the front seat, but there are a couple things that drive me nuts when it comes to the everyday operations of this vehicle. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the lack of a digital gauge cluster, or a gauge cluster at all, or even a heads-up display. Tesla's gone away years ago with the Model 3, gone away with the gauge cluster only having the center screen. And for the most part, it works out just fine. This is very high quality operating system. It's a very high quality screen. It's very fluid, very little lag with this thing, and it has plenty of features that you could spend a week learning on how to use. It's very robust. In situations where you're in heavy traffic, let's say rush hour after work, especially in a major metropolis, basically you can't see your speed in front of you, and it shows it right here in the corner, on the top left corner of the screen. But even looking down at this screen for a split second in a heavy traffic situation can lead to accidents. Plenty of people know this. Plenty of people have gotten into accidents before from split-second decisions. And looking down at the screen to check your speed or to check the blind spot camera that shows up when you turn on the turn signals, that split second can lead to a bad move where you cause an accident or someone runs into you or something along those lines. So yes, the car on the interior looks cleaner without the gauge cluster, I will admit that, and the screen is great in the center, but to improve the safety of operating this vehicle, it would be nice to see something like a gauge cluster or at least a heads-up display. That way you can see what's going on with the basic information with your car. For example, the Ford Mustang Mach-E has a tiny little gauge cluster, albeit it looks ugly and it's not the right way to do that. I think if you integrated something like that, you might have an increase in safety when it comes to driving the vehicle. And like I said, it doesn't even have to be a screen. It can be a heads-up display, but still, I wish they just did something that way. You didn't have to glance down at your screen to even check your speed or your blind spots, though there are blind spot indicators, little red lights that show up in the speakers in the door that you can look at to check if anyone's in your blind spot, but some people like looking at the camera more, and that is displayed in the center when you turn on the turn signal. So really, it's personal preference. I kind of wish it was in front of me, but for the most part, it seems like everybody's fine with Tesla's decision to go away with the gauge cluster in the Model 3 and even in the Model Y. The next thing I want to talk about is an issue not only with cars recently, well, it has been an issue with cars recently, especially with brands like BMW who are adding subscription services to their cars, but really just in general in the technological space and anything regarding consumer electronics, there's been a push towards this subscription-based model where you get everything in this nice little neat package for a decent price or even free. And then to get any kind of extended functionality, you need to pay a large sum of money or for a subscription service to get access to additional features. Now with Tesla, one of their biggest technological leaps in the last 10 years that they've been around has been, or longer than 10 years that they've been around, has to do with their full self-driving technology and their autopilot technology that they've been developing since around 2012, so over 10 years doing this. And slowly, the cost of that full self-driving technology and the full autopilot has gradually increased over the years by a couple $1,000s here or there. Basically what I'm saying, to acquire full self-driving from the factory, if you pay in full and you get a Model 3, is $8,000. Now, $8,000, that's a normal option for, let's say, a performance package on some cars. If you were to get a Porsche, $8,000 is a performance package or an appearance package. That's to give you kind of a scope of how much it costs. The price I paid for this car is around $57,000, and it's $8,000 to get the full self-driving technology unlocked for you. That means it is over a 10% price increase to get access to full self-driving, which is absurdly expensive. Now, there are ways to counter this. It is going to be through Tesla's $99 a month subscription to full self-driving. And you might be saying, well, that doesn't seem that bad. Well, here's my opinion on the situation with the subscription-based model for full self-driving. I kind of believe that Tesla purposely overprices full self-driving for pay in full and get people hooked into a subscription model rather than paying the upfront $8,000. I think it's a way to drive consistent revenue rather than forcing people into an $8,000 option. But still, the car comes with it installed. The software can run it regardless, but you're hit by a paywall every single time you want to use full self-driving, not to mention the fact that they have it for premium connectivity as well, which gives you access to Wi-Fi and everything like that in the car. But still, it seems like Tesla's gone more and more towards pushing people to a subscription-based model to get them locked into that by overpricing the features such as full self-driving by over 10% of the car's original value. To me, that seems kind of skeevy. But I don't know. Maybe $2,000 for full self-driving? I think that seems fair. But $8,000? Come on, Tesla, that's a little out of this world ridiculous. And then the last thing I want to talk about in the Tesla Model 3 performance, and this generally carries across all Tesla models out there right now, is the lack of cell phone integration software in the operating system. Every operating system these days in the major car brands has connectivity with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto over a wireless connection, which is preferred, or over a wired connection, especially if you have like a model of a car that's like 5 or 6 years old. Of course, they're still going to be using a wired connection, but regardless, you can still integrate your phone using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto into the infotainment system. Not so in a Tesla Model 3, Model S, Model Y, or Model X, or even a Cybertruck. None of them have cell phone integration with those vehicles. So what are you left with? Yes, this is a very robust operating system with many features, applications, and things that you can do with it. You can even watch Netflix or Hulu Plus, Twitch, YouTube while you're charging the car. It's got games, it's got different little fun features. There's a megaphone that you can talk through that projects it on the outside of the car. The navigation system in this is second to none. I think better than Apple Maps or Google Maps, though its navigation sometimes is a little shaky on directions. Very high quality, very responsive, but that space that's left by the void of integration software is kind of deadening, because what happens is some people do prefer Apple CarPlay because it integrates additional apps and everything into your phone. Even, if you use YouTube Music, which by God, I don't know why you'd use that, but if you use YouTube Music, there's not an app for that in Tesla. Of course, there's the Bluetooth audio, but being able to choose your music straight through Apple CarPlay or Android Auto is a lot more efficient and better than bringing up your phone while you're driving and trying to dangle with the Bluetooth audio settings in this car, which are still robust but could use some work. Now, I'm just using that app as an example here, but what I'm saying is some people prefer the car phone software rather than the base operating system that's installed on the Tesla, though it's pretty cool arguably it's a pretty cool piece of software. But still, some people prefer Apple Maps, some people prefer Google Maps on their phone, some people prefer to be able to access their music app directly, though with the Tesla Model 3, you do have access to Apple CarPlay, Spotify, and Tidal, I believe is what it is called. Yeah, Tidal on this car, Apple Podcasts, Audible, things like that. You do have access to them. But the thing is not everybody uses those apps, so it kind of alienates a bunch of people. Again, Bluetooth audio, but still, you kind of get what I'm saying. People have preferences. If they do get a Tesla, they're not able to act on those preferences, and they're not really able to utilize the car the way they want to utilize the car. So those are the 5 things I hate about my Tesla Model 3 Performance. I'm sure a bunch of you guys who own the Model 3 Performance feel the same exact way. It's a great car. I think it looks cool for being a Tesla. Of course, I miss my M4 and the way that looked, but overall, I think it's a pretty good looking EV, especially for a Tesla. And it drives great. Those are just certain things that on an everyday basis kind of drive me nuts and make me think, man, I could still be in my M4 and these things would be solved. But anyways, I hope you guys liked the video. Make sure you leave a like down below and a comment. Comment what you think of the new Tesla Model 3 Performance and things that you hate about it. I'll see you guys in the next video.